Charles Sanders Peirce, a founding figure of pragmatism, was an American philosopher who believed that the meaning of ideas lies in their practical consequences. He saw inquiry as a communal, ongoing process aimed at truth, guided by fallibilism, the idea that our beliefs are always open to revision. As a logician, the American pragmatist contributed to semiotics, the study of signs, and to the logic of scientific discovery. He believed that there are three kinds of inference: deductions, inductions, and abductions, and he argued that beliefs are habits of action, constantly tested by experience. Peirce's work helped lay the groundwork for American pragmatism and modern logic. His vision of philosophy as experimental and collaborative continues to inspire many philosophers today. William James was an American psychologist and philosopher, and one of the founders of pragmatism. He emphasized the practical consequences of beliefs and defended a kind of pragmatic theory of truth. He thought our beliefs are part of a living process. Emotions, will, and subjective experiences matter in shaping what we call truth. A propositional attitude is true just in case it proves itself useful in the long run, according to him. James famously defended the right to believe in certain ideas, even without conclusive evidence, if doing so helps us live meaningfully. His pluralistic worldview embraced uncertainty and complexity. Instead of a rigid, mechanical universe, James envisioned an open world, still in formation. His ideas influenced psychology, philosophy of religion, ethics, and philosophy of mind, emphasizing human freedom, the will, and the power of personal commitment. John Dewey was an American philosopher and psychologist who expanded pragmatism into education, politics, and social reform. He saw thought as a tool for problem-solving. Philosophy's job was to help us navigate real-world challenges, not chase eternal abstractions. The American thinker rejected dualisms like mind-body or theory practice. For him, learning happens through doing. His educational philosophy emphasized inquiry, reflection, and active engagement and participation over memorization. Schools should be communities that prepare individuals for democratic life. In ethics and politics, Dewey was a staunch Democrat. He believed democracy was a moral ideal rooted in communication and growth. His vision remains influential in progressive education, civic engagement, and humanistic approaches to science and ethics. George Herbert Mead was an American philosopher, sociologist, and psychologist. He was a pragmatist, perhaps best known for his theory of the self. He argued that the self is not a fixed substance, but develops through social interaction, especially through taking the perspective of others. According to Mead, language plays a crucial role in shaping consciousness. Through communication, we internalize the norms and roles of the community. The self emerges from the interplay between the I, the spontaneous self, and the me, the socialized self. Mead's work bridged philosophy, sociology, and psychology, and he laid the groundwork for symbolic interactionism. For him, the human mind is essentially social, arising from the dynamic, reflective coordination of individuals in shared activities. F.C.S. Schiller was a British pragmatist who emphasized the human element in all knowledge. He argued that truth is not something objective and eternal, but something that depends on consequences and human purposes. Schiller's philosophy, sometimes called humanism, insisted that values, intentions, and needs are central to meaning. He critiqued abstract metaphysics and logic that ignored the practical and emotional sides of life. For him, reason must serve life, not dominate it. Though less well known today, the British philosopher helped spread pragmatist ideas in Europe, and he remains a thought-provocative figure for those interested in the intersection of logic, psychology, and ethics. Clarence Irving Lewis was an American philosopher and logician who helped develop modal logic, the logic of necessity and possibility. One of his most influential ideas was conceptual pragmatism. He argued that knowledge is rooted in experience but structured by our choices of conceptual schemes. These schemes are not dictated by nature, but are human-made tools for navigating reality. He urged us to be consistent in valuation, thought, and action, and believed that the good life is the highest good. His work helped lay the foundations for later developments in modal logic, pragmatism, and the philosophy of language. W.V.O. Quine was an American philosopher who challenged the strict empiricism of logical positivism, especially its sharp distinction between analytic and synthetic truths. In Two Dogmas of Empiricism, he argued that our knowledge forms a web, not isolated truths. He believed that experience tests our whole system of beliefs, not just individual statements. This holistic view suggested that revision of even basic logical truths is possible in light of experience. The American philosopher also rejected the idea of a fixed meaning of terms, emphasizing the indeterminacy of translation. His work pushed philosophy toward naturalism and a more scientifically integrated view of knowledge. Hilary Putnam was an American philosopher and a major figure in analytic philosophy. Early in his career, he was known for advocating functionalism, the idea that mental states are defined by their roles, not by their physical makeup. He famously critiqued the idea of metaphysical realism, introducing internal realism, the view that truth and meaning in some sense depend on our conceptual schemes, but are still objective in a human-centered way. Knowledge is always situated, according to him. Later in life, Putnam embraced pragmatist themes influenced by William James and John Dewey. He defended a moral realism rooted in human needs and values and rejected sharp boundaries between fact and value. His work remains influential in the philosophy of mind, language, science, and ethics. Nicholas Rescher was a prolific German-American philosopher who worked across many fields: logic, epistemology, metaphysics, philosophy of science. He blended pragmatism, idealism, and realism in a unique way. Rescher's pragmatism emphasized the limits of human knowledge. He argued for a kind of cognitive idealism, acknowledging that all knowledge is mediated by human capacities, yet still anchored in a structured and intelligible reality. He believed that our theories should be judged by their usefulness, coherence, and explanatory power. He was also interested in process philosophy, which views reality as dynamic and change-oriented rather than static. Scientific theories are always fallible, yet it is reasonable to trust our scientific methods, since they generally tend to produce reliable results. His approach encouraged humility, intellectual discipline, and respect for the complexity of both the world and our thinking about it. Richard Rorty was a thought-provocative and influential American philosopher who challenged traditional ideas of objectivity, truth, and the nature of philosophy. He merged pragmatism with postmodernism, arguing that philosophy should stop chasing certainty and mirror-like representations of reality. In Philosophy and the Mirror of Nature, the American thinker rejected the idea of knowledge as reflection. Instead, he proposed that language is a tool, not a mirror, and truth is what our communities let pass for good conversation. He urged philosophers to adopt a more literary, democratic style of thinking. Rorty's vision emphasized solidarity over objectivity and hoped for a liberal and humane society. Though often criticized for his relativistic and unorthodox views, he sought a tolerant, pluralistic culture where ideas are judged by their usefulness and moral effects, not by their supposed correspondence to absolute reality.